You should be good to go, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good evening, members of the public, staff, and members of council. Welcome to the Monday, December 6th Committee of Adjustment meeting. Can I have someone call the meeting to call the meeting to order? Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Councillor Lang. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried and the meeting is opened. Approval of the agenda as presented or amended. Ms. Haley?
We have no further additions or deletions to the agenda. Thank you.
Oh, we're not deferring Legault. I was just going to have it amended on the agenda.
It will come as a request from the applicant as we get to that application this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is to approve the agenda as presented. Approval of the minutes of the November 15th meeting. Can I have a mover and a second? Moved by Councillor McDonnell and second by Councillor Jaworski. All those in favor of the minutes? Motion is carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, A-2621, Priere Ngay. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to share my screen. Sorry about that. There we go. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting this evening. For members of the public that are participating by Zoom or by phone, you will be permitted to speak to the respective application following my presentation. Prior to speaking, please state your name and address for the record. To make a comment, please use the raise hand function and the chair will call on you. If you have registered to participate in the meeting by phone to speak to an application, you will be asked if you would like to comment on the application after the applicable presentation. I am now going to read to you required wording under the Ontario Planning Act. This is a hearing under Section 44 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend this hearing and/or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed minor variance. If a person or public body does not make oral or written submissions at this hearing before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the minor variance of the Committee of Adjustment to the Ontario Land Tribunal, also known as OLT. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a hearing or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment or the Township of South Glengarry before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OLT unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So now we're going to get started with our first application. This application is known as A-2621. It's for a property that's located or legally described as part of Lot 85 and Lots 86 and 87, Registered Plan number 15 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in South Glengarry, and it's also known as or addressed as 20363 County Road 2. This is a map of the subject property. So this is the village of South Lancaster, and to help orient everyone, where my mouse is would be Tim Hortons in Lancaster, the jewelry factory, and this would be the site of the former Impala Motel. And this property is developed and contains a single detached dwelling with an attached garage, and it is serviced by municipal water and sewer. This photo was taken of the subject property on November 6, 2021, when the sign was erected. So you can see the single detached dwelling, including the garage. The purpose of the minor variance application is the subject property is zoned residential 2. It contains an existing single detached dwelling, A home occupation is a permitted use within the residential 2 zone. However, it limits the sales of goods, wares, and the merchandise to items produced from the home occupation. This home occupation is proposed to sell bait, tackle, and camping supplies within the existing detached dwelling. Therefore, the following relief from the zoning bylaw 3809 is requested. is to permit the sales of bait, tackle, and camping supplies as a home occupation. And the reason for this request is because these items simply cannot be produced as part of a home occupation. They're clearly products that would be for retail purposes. The proposed home occupation can conform to all other provisions of the zoning bylaw, such as parking. It will not use more than 25% of the gross floor area of the dwelling, and it will not require more than one non-residential employee. And that's just some of the main provisions, just to explain to the committee how it can conform. This is a drawing that was provided to us from the applicant. So you can see here the residence and the garage. So they did complete the calculation of the square footage to make sure they can work with the bylaw. They have a fairly large driveway for an urban property. The driveway can accommodate 4 existing vehicles. In order to meet the bylaw, you need 2 parking spaces per residential use. And they're able to also add an additional 3 cars, which is required according to our parking formula in the bylaw for a home-based business. And so therefore they're able to meet it and actually exceed the parking by 2 spaces. And the property is designated residential district. It is located within the urban settlement area of South Lancaster. And this application does conform to the general intent of the official plan. And that's because these types of uses are permitted within the official plan in this designation. And the property is zoned residential too. And in my opinion, it does also conform to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The application was circulated to applicable municipal staff. Planning and building have no concerns with this application. And we also circulated it to the United Counties Transportation Department, and they also had no concerns or objections to the application. To date, I've not received any communication from any members of the public throughout this process. So that's all I have to offer at this time, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I do know that the applicant is on the line representing Mr. Prier, and he'd be willing to answer any questions that you may have in regards to the proposed business. I also provided to the committee a list of kind of pros and that they developed in terms of why this business would be a great location for this property. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I go to questions of members of council, I'll give Mr. Gay a opportunity to speak. Just unmute yourself, state your name and address, and if you have anything to add.
My name is Victor Gay. I live at 6588 Tree Haven and recently moved here now 2 years. And it's always been the interest of mine to be able to help develop the fishing industry in the local area. I've always been involved with tournaments, either for charity work, cancer related, or heavily involved with the Bass Pro tournaments that my cousins are involved with. So I just think it'd be a good way to support the fishing industry and make things accessible for the anglers.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gay, what kind of hours would you be wanting to operate your business?
We'd be thinking of 6 a.m. to most likely 5 p.m.
5 p.m. and that be 7 days a week?
We haven't fully decided, but we think it'd be probably 6.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Are there any other questions of the members of the committee? Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Haley, and thank you, Mr. Gay, for your explanation of a little bit more context on what you're trying to do here. My question is to Ms. Haley. I would just like if you could speak just briefly to like the uses of the land, the lots that are adjacent to this property in question.
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. There's a parcel of property that's directly to the south of the subject property, and that parcel is zoned commercial. It contains the business called Worley's Garage. And then to the south of that, we also have a business in our community that's known as Lalonde's Body Shop. So that has a light industrial zone. As I mentioned to you when I was trying to orient where you are in the village, kind of catty corner to the subject property used to be the former Impala Motel, which is also a highway commercial zone. And then slightly to the north and on the west side is a variety of commercial uses being the jewelry store, Aberdeen Giftware, Tim Hortons, and then across the road would be Dairy Queen, another gift shop. So it's not uncommon to have commercial uses in this area, as you can tell. And this certainly would be compatible with the existing uses, even with the residential use abutting to the north. In my opinion, the proposed home-based business is not going to change the residential character or look of the property. We do have provisions in our bylaw that protects that house to remain as a residential home. And so I think it could be a great fit for the community.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Haley.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Jaworski. Are there any other questions of the members of council? And okay, can I have a mover to Councillor Lang?
Yes, I'll move that we accept this.
Move to approve as accepted. Can I get a seconder?
I'd second. Just I hadn't heard you call. Maybe I missed a call to the public, but if there's no comments from the public, maybe I missed that. Sorry.
Oh. Are there any comments from the members of? I'm looking here. I don't see anybody's hand up.
No, but I'd second it gladly, or I saw Councillor Jaworski's hand as well. So.
Okay, I'll just give that another couple seconds. Is there any other members of the public who would like to comment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item. Sorry, my screen's, I had to make it smaller. Oops. That's Legault. A2721 Legault. Ms. Haley, please.
Are you able to see my screen again?
Yeah, I see a question mark. There we go.
So, Mr. Chair, we received a request from the applicant today to request the committee to defer the application. If you don't mind, I would like you to call upon the applicant, Mr. Legault. And once we hear from the applicant, I will proceed in introducing the application to the committee, as well as to benefit the public, as we may have other members of the public on the meeting this evening that should need to understand why a request, or excuse me, why a deferral is being requested. So thank you.
Okay. So I to understand that Ms. Legault will be speaking to this right now, Ms. Haley, or are you going to do
Yes, please.
Okay, so I have Ms. Cindy Legault on. Will you be speaking on behalf of the application?
So I would like Mr. Legault to file that request directly with the committee as opposed to just hearing from myself, and then I'll proceed with the application.
Okay, go ahead, state your name and your address, please.
Okay, Mr. Warden, are you expecting to hear from me or Brian?
I don't see Brian on my screen, so I only have, yeah, I don't see Brian on the screen.
Oh, okay, so I will speak to the issue then. Apparently the application for minor variance was rejected according to our neighbor, and I think it was all a miscommunication in that we thought the minor variance had to go through before we met up with had our lawyers meet up with each other to reach an agreement.
So I just want to clarify, Ms. Legault, that the application was not rejected. At this time, the committee is, from what Ms. Haley has said, that the application is going to be deferred.
Deferred. Okay, I'm sorry.
And that's what we're understanding, that there are things behind the scenes that are going on, and it's best at this time for all parties involved to just defer the application. And then once that stuff gets started behind the scenes, then you'll have a way forward, from what I understanding. Ms. Haley?
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize, Mrs. Legault, for referring to Mr. Legault. Most of my conversations have been with your husband, so thank you for that. So
Okay,
now that we've heard from the applicant that they would like to request a deferral for the application, I am going to introduce the application to the committee because it is up to the committee to make the decision as to whether you want this to be deferred or not. So this application is located at the south part of Lot 13, Concession 1 Front in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, which is now in South Glengarry, and is located directly across the road from 19203 on County Road 2. I do have a key map that shows the location of the property. For those of you who are familiar, this is County Road 2. We are in the settlement area of Somerstown, and this is Richmond Road in this location. So the subject property is a small strip of land located on the south side of County Road 2 that is approximately 0.10 acres in size. The property contains a boathouse with a dock that is located on the east side of the boathouse. According to our aerial photos, the boathouse and the dock have been there for a number of years. However, the dock was recently reconstructed and is now wider than the original dock. This newly constructed dock does not conform to the township's zoning bylaw. This is a photo that was taken on November 26th, the time that the sign was erected. I realize this maybe isn't a great photo in terms of showing the orientation of the boathouse, the dock versus the abutting property, but I will give more detail on that in a minute here. So a minor variance application was applied for because once we were made aware of the dock that was constructed and it appeared that it didn't conform to the requirements of their zoning bylaw, our bylaw enforcement officer worked with the abutting property owner to provide them options. And one option is to always allow the property owner to apply for a variance to determine if this could be approved to allow the dock to remain. The property owner received a survey, or really a sketch prepared by an Ontario land surveyor, and then filed a minor variance application. And the purpose of the application is to, I'm going to read it clearly here, that a dock was recently constructed on the east side of an existing boathouse that does not conform to the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw requires a 4-meter setback to the nearest adjacent lot line. Therefore, the following relief from zoning bylaw 3809 is requested. To reduce the setback from 4 meters to 1.6 meters from the newly constructed dock to the nearest adjacent lot line to the east. Sorry about that. So this is, I just took a snippet of the survey sketch that was provided and prepared by Mr. Stidwell. You can see here, this is done in Imperial. So you can see here that the proposed dock is only 3.8 feet from the abutting property owner's line at the closest part. And that converts to 1.6 meters. So the application was circulated to all adjacent property owners within 60 meters of the subject property and applicable agencies. To date, the United Counties Transportation Department has responded and they have no concerns or objections to the application. The Raisin Region Conservation Authority also was circulated and they have no objections to this application. They did ask they asked me to inform the property owner that if any further work is to be done, it may require a permit. And part of the public circulation, I did receive a written submission from Simmons Law on behalf of the property owners, Alain and Beverly Touchette, who are located directly to the east of the subject property. I have provided the committee a copy of this written submission, so the committee has had a chance to receive it. Although the committee has not been given a lot of time to review this submission, and it is a 50-page submission. It's almost impossible for me to read all the details of the submission. But basically, what this document does is it outlines the issues, the purpose of the application. It also provides various examples of case law, and it does get into addressing the 4 tests that is required to be considered by the committee members as per the Ontario Planning Act. And it also has a concluding page. And in that concluding page, they did ask that the application be denied, and or alternatively that the applicants are to refrain from the using of the dock for mooring of vessels, as well as only allowing it to be used for access to maintain the boathouse and a pump. So, and with that being said, I'm just going to show a little bit more photos here. This photo was provided to me from Mr. Touchette. So this is primarily the water frontage of Touchette's property, but you can see here, I do have a label that says Legault's Dock. So you can kind of help understand the proximity of the dock in comparison to the Touchette's property. The written submission requests that the minor variance be denied, as I explained, because they really don't want anyone to park in front of their property. They don't want their water usage to be impacted. They don't want it to become an unsafe environment for themselves and their family members, and therefore they would consider allowing it to be used only to maintain that boathouse and water pump, as I mentioned. The purpose of the request to defer the decision is to allow the applicant and the abutting property owners to develop an agreement pertaining to the usage of the dock and the no parking of marine vessels, no trespassing, etc. If there is an agreement, then the abutting property owner may withdraw their objection to this requested variance. So today I spent quite a bit of time speaking with both the applicant and the abutting property owner to kind of better understand the concerns, what we need to consider when we're making a recommendation to the Committee of Adjustment, and what the committee would need to consider as well. So if the committee agrees to defer this application this evening, the minor variance must be decided upon at a future meeting within a reasonable time frame to allow the applicant and the abutting property owner to develop an agreement. Just because an agreement may be developed, though, it's important to note that the agreement does not guarantee that this application will be approved, as the committee must review all information provided and must also consider the 4 tests as per the Ontario Planning Act. My goal is to see if we can come to some sort of support or arrangements or what we can do. But at the end of the day, we still are responsible to make good land use planning decisions and planning decisions that are in general conformity to the official plan and the zoning bylaw. Because we're bringing a request to defer this evening, I did not put in my report all the details of what would conform to the official plan and why and how it would meet the general intent or not of the zoning bylaw and things like that. So if this is deferred this evening, then we will be coming back at a later date with a more formal report and a recommendation. So I do request the committee to defer it, please. Thank you. And also, Mr. Chair, just to note that we do have the abutting property owner, the Touchettes, on the line this evening. I believe their legal counsel is also on the video as well. So I'm sure between the applicant and the abutting property owners, they'll be able to answer any questions, and I can answer further questions if any.
Okay, Councillor Martinell, do you have a question before I go to the other folks?
Through you, Mr. Chair, at this point, I don't see much point in having them speak, as we're going to be deferring regardless. That's the request of the planner, and we don't even have enough information to decide whether it conforms or not. So I'll move to defer at this point and just move on with it.
Okay, I'm going to allow them to speak because they are here and they thought that this process will play it out. Thank you for those comments. It'll be their option if they choose not to. Are there any ones from the Touchettes or their representatives who would like to speak? I don't see anybody's hand up. Okay. Please state your name and who you are, please, and thank you. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, this is Teo Simmons. I'm counsel for the Touchettes. I just wanted to speak briefly and state that Ms. Haley's remarks accurately summarized our discussion. It's my expectation that, well, certainly there's going to be a request for deferment. And so I really don't have anything further to add, but I just did want to put that on the record.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other comments or questions of members of public or council? Committee, I mean. Seeing none, motion to defer. Moved by Councillor McDonell, second by Councillor Jaworski. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And that is it for this meeting, Ms. Haley?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair.
Do we have a date for the next meeting at this
We
point?
do. We have our next meeting scheduled to be December 20th, and we have one item on that agenda so far. I would imagine we will only have the one item because our deadline for submission is tomorrow at noon hour. And it's going to be a busy meeting that night because we have 3 public meetings for zoning amendments as well. So we'll do committee of adjustment after the zoning amendment public meetings, followed by council. So thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for everyone attending. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor McDonell, second by Councillor Lang. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you on at 7 o'clock for our regular council meeting.